drone and stay with inside your egg, your security egg, for the rest of your life and never get hurt, or you can go out there and figure out how to, make the best out of life in general.
Yeah. And achieve and accomplish.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so now the third one is auto-suggestion. If you want to kind of tell me what your view is of auto-suggestion.
Yeah.
So third one, auto-suggestion. We've talked about desire, faith, now auto-suggestion.
Yeah, I think it's super important, again, getting to know ourselves.
Agreed.
Right. Without understanding who we are, how we're going to act, the faith and the desires, right? Without having the previous two, I don't think it matters what we tell ourselves.
Sure.
We just kind of like we're just telling ourselves to tell ourselves things at a certain point. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
I think having that desire, and then acting on it, and then telling ourselves, even when times get hard, through that faith, I think it's super important to then keep it going.
Yeah.
Right. I think the auto-suggestion, just like you mentioned earlier, putting more logs on the fire.
Yeah.
Telling ourselves, yes, it's okay. This is really crappy. This is really hard. I just have to persevere.
Yeah.
I just have to do it.
And he talks a lot about basically the conscious and the subconscious mind. And I think this is really where it's cool, and I don't have a cool clipboard to show you, but he's basically talking about...
Yeah, while you're pulling that up, I think I read a study one time that 90% of what we do as humans is from the conscious mind. It all stems at one point from the subconscious.
Sure.
But our habits and the things we do oftentimes are in the top 10% of the conscious mind. And when we want to be one of the crazies and get out of the norm and actually accomplish something like creating the radio, we have to get out of the 10%. We have to get out of our own minds and into the subconscious. Otherwise, we're stuck in the 10% with everybody else. Right?
And the crazy thing too is that like the 10% that are the loonies, that are able to do that. It's so funny because then when it is accepted, like okay, we can do this radio thing, then everybody benefits from it, and then it's just a norm thing, and then it moves into the security of, well, of course we can do a radio, or of course we can do this stuff. So it's crazy that. Would you say that we all have the ability to be part of the 10%, but we just choose to be part of the 90%?
No, sorry, it's flipped, right? So we spend 10% of our mind is the conscious.
Gotcha.
The 90% that we never use is the subconscious, which I think we need to be part of the 90%. We need to use the 90% that we're not using. I think we all have that ability, though. Right?
Good.
I think we just don't, because we're so caught up in just being in the 10%.
Of that security kind of thing. Yeah.
And so, what's his name? Guy who first ran under the 4-minute mile.
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name, but I know. Yeah. And it was impossible.
Nobody
can do this. We're not even humans. There's no way we can run this. Yeah.
And now there's thousands of people who do it.
Right.
Like high school kids.
Yeah.
It's just not that hard anymore. It's not because it wasn't over the span of 40 years biologically we changed.
Yeah.
We've been the same humans from the time we were in caves, right?
Right.
It was just mindset.
Yeah.
We moved out of the 10% of our conscious mind saying that we couldn't do it into the 90% of the subconscious where miracles happen. Yeah. For example. Right?
Yeah. When I think that's the thing is that it takes a lot of those loonies to better our lives as the rest, because in my opinion, we can all be part of being able to use the subconscious to be able to benefit us, but people just are worried about that security. And again, I don't know if you guys can actually see this, but they talk about, I don't know if you can actually see that, but how this is the body, thank you, And the top part is the conscious, the bottom part is subconscious, and the rest is your body. I'm sorry, the top is your head, the conscious, and then the subconscious, and then the body. And that, he talks about how we can pile all of this this information, as far as education and knowledge and books that we read into the conscious, but then, only allows what fits into there's only certain different things that will kind of how does he put it? The conscious is the gatekeeper to the subconscious. And then, I think there's just so much. Would you say, like, when they say we only use 10% of our brains or whatever that saying is, that they're talking about this other 90% that we could be using is that subconscious?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And and there's so many different times too, like that there's all of this stuff that we don't even realize that are being put into our subconscious of somebody being negative or the different thoughts. And in my opinion, I don't even watch the news because I feel it's just poison to your brain because, we allow what we think can grow rich. We allow everybody takes that rich part as is money. And so we focus so much on the money that these goons, if you will just sell us whatever we want as long as we keep buying it. And if it bleeds, it leads. If it bleeds, it leads. So people, if we just keep buying it, whose fault is that? Really, Is it their fault for being the evil ones that kind of just feed us all of this garbage, or is it us for watching it? Right. And that's the thing, is that you could say XYZ to 10 different people, and 5 are going to take it one way, 5 are going to take it the other way, or they could all take it in 10 different ways. Why can't we just look at the positive things and avoid the negative things in life? So, and again, we're talking about autosuggestion, but I think autosuggestion really just means that if we just keep telling ourselves something over and over and over and over and over, eventually we're going to believe it. But the real thing that we have to be careful about is that it really doesn't decipher between positive or negative. Mm-hmm. So if we constantly say, well, I can't run a 4-minute mile because my legs are too little, my legs are too little, my legs are too little, I'm never going to run the 4-minute mile. But if we say, oh, I don't, that's okay, I can stay closer to the ground because my legs are so little, and I'm gonna do this. Eventually, you're going to be able to do that. And again, we're not. I think the problem is that there's just so many people that do something for 10 minutes and they're like, wow, this never works because it doesn't work for 10. I've been doing it for 10 minutes and it's not working. Well, gosh, it took him 20 years to write the book. It took him 20 years to get into his son's subconscious that he'll be able to speak someday and listen to what they're saying. Yeah. So I think what autosuggestion is just saying, in my opinion, is that if you just constantly keep telling yourself, I think I can, eventually you're going to get your train up the mountain, and then as you're coming down it, then you're going to feel great about it. But the problem is that everybody looks at the guy coming down, the train coming down the mountain, and like, oh, look at him, he's so good, he made it up the mountain, he did so well.
The overnight successes.
Right. But they don't realize that the overnight successes took 20 years worth of work to be able to get that. And again, Napoleon Hill, the author of the book, he died a really wealthy man, but he didn't start there. He was just that train that said, I think I can. So again, having the desire to really believe in what you want, taking the faith to keep the fire alive, and then the autosuggestion to kind of get through all of those people that are saying, no, that's too dangerous, little 10-year-old boy, you can't fly, to be able to then think about, okay, I can, just like the Wright brothers. No, I can.
Yeah, I love the example he gives in here. The preacher.
Exactly.
He goes, he's wanting $1 million to start, was it a school or a college?
Yep.
Didn't know how he was going to do it, so he goes to put on a speech.
Yeah.
Right. Looking for donations.
Mm-hmm. For the $1 million.
Yep. And then he forgot his notes that he had written for the previous.
Spent like the last 2 years kind of working on the speech. Yeah. He
made it to the courthouse or the chapel or wherever they're going. Realized he didn't have his notes, and he said it was the best thing not having had his prepared notes, because then he could talk. Not all of this other stuff that everybody was telling him that he should say. Right. He should talk, and he did talk. And then one man came and he believed in him, said, yep, here's $1 million, come meet me at my place afterwards.
Yeah.
But he told himself over a long period of time, I'm going to get $1 million.
Yep.
And then he did.
And he even talked about too during that about that he had spent 2 years. So the school that he wanted to do, I think he wanted to make a school where he really felt that education was essentially stuffy and wasn't teaching you how to apply your knowledge and your thought process. But he talks about how he spent 2 years doing that, and then when he had a definiteness of faith,
his definite chief aim. Yeah.
Within a week, he had the money that he was working on for the last year. So, and I think that's really what it's about too, is that we have to be able to, if we don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it. Yeah. And if we don't have that, that desire, that faith, and then be able to, through auto-suggestion, or what he calls self-suggestion as well. I don't think he says, I've heard that somewhere else, but, just being able to repetitively beat it into our head, and at the same time kind of go over, putting it in your head. We actually missed kind of a big part in faith when he does the 6 different steps of. Oh, yeah. I'm actually gonna. Let me see where that's at. So I think this is really important to bring up. So. Probably already should have had this, but here we go. Is that it? Here it is. So he talks about this it's actually under desire. So he talks about the 6 steps. So he first says, and this is on page 57. I don't know if it's in the same on all the books. Yeah. But so I'm just going to read this. I apologize for just reading this out loud. But so he says, the method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. And this is the different ones. And he actually talks about moving, because we're talking about autosuggestion. He talks about how what you want to do is you want to, and I'll read this in a second, but you want to write this down and then repeat this 2 times a day and really beating the autosuggestion in your head over and over and over. But first, fix in your mind the exact amount. So again, we're talking about money, but I think this is just could be anything that you kind of want in life. But first, these are the 6 different steps. First, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It's not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money, but be definite as to the amount. There is a psychological reason for the definiteness, which will be described in the subsequent chapter. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There is no such reality as something for nothing. And he talks a lot about that too during the Depression, and how that was just kind of a pop, essentially, if you will, of people... to kind of like the equivalent of just like the universe having that's enough of everybody kind of wants something for nothing. And I think that's the thing is too, that we always look at that person, like you said, like the overnight success of, oh well, he must have got lucky, or he must have had a break, and he talks about this in the book. But it's really, there's no such thing as something for nothing. And going back into the giving part, and opinion that, again, that's just my opinion of like what the secret to life is that, I don't know, not the meaning, but the secret is just to give. And same thing, like look at the Mother Teresa's in life, like she just gave and gave and gave and gave, and she doesn't have, and I think that's, by structure, she doesn't want all the material things. She doesn't have the material things, but she has this. I mean, she's essentially almost upon like sainthood as far as like what you get out of life. So it's not just about money. It's only going to be so far you can do that. Third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. And that's the other thing too, is I think that we can have a lot of this stuff, and a lot of people put in the what's the way I want to put it? They put in the efforts, but they're not clear enough about what they want, so they really don't know what exactly they're working towards. And I always, in consulting, I used to talk about like Michael Phelps is like, if they just told Michael Phelps, just swim, we'll tell you when you get there. It's a much different thing than if Michael Phelps could say, close his eyes and picture if he's got to swim 50 yards or 75 yards, what that is and what that feels like, and what, where that's at. And they've even talked about, the scientific things that experiments that they've done of where they'll hook everybody up to like the mind, where everything, and the person, the runner or the swimmer or the fill in the blank, if they see themselves doing it, like running, those same muscles are firing constantly within there. So it's crazy how just because we're not clear enough about what we want in life, that we kind of walk around going, well, gosh, it didn't work,
After the 10 minutes that we tried it.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
I think we're all so caught up in instant food, instant messaging, instant
medication, pills, everything.
Instant everything. That's not success. There's no overnight successes.
Yeah.
Right? It's grit, it's grind, it's persistence, it's years of faith and desire.
Yeah.
And the 3 principles we talked about so far, faith, desire, and auto-suggestion.
Yeah.
It's years of that.
Yeah.
Not just the instant, right?
And I think too, I think you're right. It's not just about, I think we're always looking at the prize. We're always looking at, well, I got that $40,000 sports car. And then we drive it around for 6 months and we're like,
it was kind of lame.
But it's all about, it's a silly way to put it, but that Miley Cyrus song where it says, it's all about the climb. It's really about that's really where the excitement's at. That's where all,
That's where the growth happens. I think that's like, I have some pretty big goals in my life. One of my goals, so I'm 24 now, one of my goals is to have $10 million recurring revenue yearly by the time I'm 35.
That's awesome.
It's a freaking impossible goal. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, but I don't know how I'm going to at this point. But I think we talk ourselves out of it so much, and that we just want the $10 million revenue recurring annually, right?
Yeah.
We want this, but we don't want the next 11 years of what it's going to take to get there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm already rich, not monetarily, but I'm already rich. I forget who mentions it, but we're all millionaires in some respect. We have billions of cells. We have, we've all taken a breath over 1 million times. Like, we're millionaires in something. We've seen 1 million different things. We're all millionaires, but nobody says they're millionaires because the only thing we think we need to be millionaires in is money.
Yeah.
And the likelihood that every person in the world gets, in our minds, that every person in the world gets that $1 million. No. But if we change our mindset to say, yes, I'm already a millionaire, I've already accomplished it, why not just go get $1 million now?
Yeah.
It's easy. I'm already a millionaire in 6 other areas of my life. Let's go make it 7. Like, who cares?
Like the sermon.
Just go get it. Right?
And I think that's a part of the trick is that it's putting yourself in that, just like you said, putting yourself in that mind state of already having that. And he talks a lot about that in here and a lot of these books, The Secret, etc. Being, The Secret actually even talks about writing. That's what he's talking about right here. What we're talking about right here is writing it down in a way that you've already had that. Because if you can put that in that mind state, and then once you get to the 10 million at 32, then you now have another, then let's go for 20 million on, residual income. And the trick, I think, too, is that, gosh, I don't remember where I heard this, but there's always going to be someone out there that's going to outproduce you.
100%.
There's always going to be somebody out there that you're going to outproduce. So going back to the gratitude part is that, if you're constantly thankful for the abundance for which you've received, in my step 4, again, this isn't mine, this is just how I'm wording that, but that you are putting yourself in that mind state to then be able to say, well, gosh, I can do $10 million a year, residually. And the trick really is getting comfortable thinking in the past and the future, if you will. And that's why I think that's great that you do that. And again, I mean, there's no way that when I first met Noah, I would have thought he was like, he doesn't look it, but I would have thought, like, knowledge-wise, he was like 55. It's crazy how advanced you are and how well aware and you're so much further ahead than so many other people in your stage. And I think that will only
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I was trying to be. I always look up to people like you as well.
And I look up to people like you. I might be older, but I look up to
mentor,
people.
right?
Yeah. And I'd say the same thing, about you. I mean, I think that's why we're sitting here doing this video.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So the fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you're ready or not to put this into action. And again, I think that action has a big part to do with it, because if you don't take the action, kind of what we're talking about, if you split the mind into a conscious and subconscious, you can put books like Think and Grow Rich into your head as much as possible. But if you don't do anything about it, it's just going to sit in the conscious. It's never going to be able to take action onto those things. Fifth, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limit for its acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. And again, I think that Napoleon's just trying to get us to be as clear as possible about it. Yeah, because the more clear, more specific we are about it, the more likely that we can picture that in our minds, the more we can be thankful for the past in the future, if you will, and the more likely to get that 10 million.
And I think it goes back to the first principle then, and it helps with our desire.
Mm-hmm.
If we become 100% specific and clear on what we want, it sets that fire for that desire.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you add the faith into it, and back everything up with the auto suggestion,
and then it just
hitting it in the subconscious. Right. Yeah. So poking it. I know I just did a video about persistence, and essentially if I had a paper bag and I just kept poking away at the middle, poke. If I do 3 pokes, it might make a tiny little dent. But if I just keep poking and poking and poking, eventually it's going to get whiter, and I'm going to poke my finger right through it. Yep. And I think people just go, poke. Well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And look at that guy. He's an instant success.
Yeah.
But that guy just kept poking at the bag day in and day out when everybody was sleeping, or whatever the case might be, to be able to poke through there.
Yep.
And then 6th, read your written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money. And then he talks here, it is important that you follow the instructions described in these 6 steps. It is especially important that you observe and follow the instructions in the 6th paragraph. And he's just talking about the repetition